Now it's time for our topic of the day.
That's right.
And you see that lineup, there's the HVAC system. So if you've never seen that acronym, we talked about what that means. And with the man of the hour who's going to explain that in more detail with a lot of Q&A from Home Comfort Solutions this morning is John Mckelvy. Good morning, John.
Good morning, John.
Good morning, guys.
Thanks for joining us and telling us everything we wanted to know about heat and air here in Oklahoma, because you can't go through either season without it. So you're in the right business.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't.
So tell us a little about your company, how long you've been around, your background, etc.
So, Home Comfort Solutions, I started in 2011. It was just a side business. I had a full-time job. And as it got busier and it took away time for family, I decided to make it my full-time job, and that was in 2016. And we've been rolling ever since.
Awesome.
My background is I learned heating and air conditioning in the Air Force and just translated to the civilian world.
You know, that Air Force, people don't realize this, but you learn a lot of skills in the Air Force. There's very different trades, and we had guys in the meteorology program going through the Air Force that time. They were separate from us, but yet they were together in the group of training. So, yeah, that opportunity can give you quite a bit later in life.
Well, and the funny thing is I didn't really enjoy it when I first started. I didn't think I was going to last in it, and then as the years rolled on, the passion got there, and I love what I do now. And then on the military side, I went from Air Force to Army and out of planes, so I went
Wow.
a different direction.
Yeah, I think in the Air Force you're supposed to stay up in the air. That's the idea. No ejection.
It was an interesting career move. So, but no, yeah, learning air conditioning was awesome.
Okay, great. Well, good. We're going to put all that knowledge and skill set to work to test here for today. So let's kind of kick off. Everybody's got a system.
Right.
So it requires typically maintenance. Maintenance either that the homeowner can do or maintenance that a company like yours can do. So kind of break it down, kind of the difference between who can do what and how important is it?
Maintenance is critical on these units. You don't want it to break down in the middle of the summer. And with just a basic maintenance program, you can stop that. I think last summer we ran probably 35% calls that were just maintenance related. And so that's the customer calling in and they have no AC in the middle of the summer. Well, if they were on a maintenance plan, they weren't making that call. It saves from it breaking down in a time that's not convenient for anyone. So yeah, as far as what the homeowner can do, they can change their filters regularly, and their outdoor unit, depending on what it is, potentially they could lightly rinse it off. But that changing filters is the most critical thing. It's the easiest thing they could do, and it'll save on a breakdown.
Okay. And he said two things that are important. So I've heard both things. So we'll talk about the filter thing in a second. The first thing you mentioned really quick was washing it off. So people are probably like, what is that? Now, I know from history what I did is I saw mine was pretty dusty, for this climate. And I've had many people at work say, I swear by washing it off and somehow you drop the temperature inside a couple of degrees. So kind of go into a little bit of how that works.
Well, so the airflow in an outdoor unit travels from the outside in and up. The fan pulls the heat from inside the unit up, and if once it gets dirty, that airflow is decreased. It doesn't remove heat. But the problem with rinsing that off, if you rinse it from outside the unit to in, you could make it worse or not help it at all. So the correct way is pull the top, rinse from inside out so it doesn't go the opposite direction. And that's where, if it's really dirty and you're not working and you think, hey, that's it, lightly rinse it off. It might get you by until it can get completely cleaned.
Okay. Hold on real quick. But don't do what I did, because when I first bought my home, I used a power washer. That's
why I said
more is better. That was a bad idea.
A light rinse, definitely. Or you could do it. The other day we replaced the system, and there was a gadget on the old unit that it was a water sprinkler that turned on a timer to cool off the outdoor unit.
Oh, that's
It's
interesting.
not it's not really recommended because we have hard water, so the outside of your unit's going to get coated and
Oh, I
uh,
see.
it's
Gotcha.
not going to cool properly. So
Okay.
So I have a question because I know I'm from Canada, and when I was coming out here to Oklahoma, in our winters or in our cooler climate, we would always cover our units up outside. Now, is that recommended here to cover them up in the cooler
it,
temperatures when not in use to protect them?
I, with as insane as Oklahoma weather is, I wouldn't cover it because you could cover it and might need air conditioning the next day.
Okay.
And really, it just it saves on debris getting inside the unit, but it I
Right.
would hate for you to cause a problem with the unit leaving it on when it doesn't need it.
Okay.
All right, so let's go back to
Okay.
the filters. All right, so
Okay.
showing homes.
Yes.
One things that we notice a lot of times when the seller gets the home ready, we look upstairs and it's this black,
Oh, yeah.
thick, nasty filter, and we're going, have you ever changed your air filters?
Right.
So tell us about how often they should be changed and what happens if you don't.
Yeah.
So there's different filters depending on what they call a MERV rating, MURV. The lower rating, the quicker you have to change them. The higher, the less frequent you have to. Every situation is different. You could have a house that the environment's dusty. You got a bunch of animals. You probably have to change them every 30 days. But I've noticed some houses, that same filter, if it's less of a harsh environment, it can go longer than that. The easy answer there is, 4 times a year.
Okay.
Okay.
And if they don't change them and it starts to get clogged up, what does that do to the unit?
It's going to cause your unit to work harder, not work correctly, and you're going to waste money and energy usage. It's going to try to do that work and pull air through that dirty filter and not work correctly.
Okay.
And then
Is that-
eventually it could cause it to break down and then cause other issues with that breakdown.
Okay. That
Now,
was my
are there
question.
filters inside the unit itself as well, or just in the
Uh,
ceilings?
Typically, we just like to filter at one area. It's either at the grill in the ceiling or at the unit.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good.
All right. So, okay, let's go on to.
So, yeah. So
brands.
let us know what a good brand would be, or what brand you guys use or supply.
Um, I'll kind of separate it out a little bit. So the
Okay.
good brand question is one we get a lot. There, I, I'm less and less convinced that brands are good or bad anymore. Used to, I would say, hey, I didn't like this brand or that brand. I think it's more how it's installed, how it's maintained, and how it's kept up over the years. That'll determine if it's a good brand or not. Every brand's kind of doing the similar things now with what the components they have in them. So brands probably less important. More important is how if you have a maintenance on the unit when it was installed on the first day, if it was done correctly, procedures followed. And as far as what brands we use Daikin, Goodman, Amana. That's essentially the same brand. Daikin is the parent company of the other two. So that's our main line. And then for mini splits, we offer Fujitsu and Daikin also. And we offer that because we have really good experience with the equipment. It's reliable. And our distributor is awesome. Gives great support. If we have any issues, we can go to them pretty quickly.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
Okay, so since we're talking about branding, and we know
Right.
here in the U.S. a lot of stuff comes from overseas, unfortunately. Even if you try to build it in-house, and it does say made in America, some of the parts that are made here still come from overseas. So have you noticed a trend in components not lasting as long as they used to? So for example, the one we have is 22 years old, knock on wood, still going. I'm still going to knock. But I know my days are limited.
Right.
So have you noticed a trend in the lifetime of some of either the newer units or some maybe that were put in a few years ago? Something not lasting as long as they used to.
Right.
I mean, I think you could say that about everything in our world today. TVs, cars, like nothing lasts like it used to.
Right.
But as far as a trend in a certain way, no. I mean, you have parts that fail, you have parts on their own, but that's very rare. More often than not, something fails for a reason, because it wasn't maintained properly, or electrical storm, something like that. But I can tell you now, these days, everything pretty much has a computer chip in it, and so any electrical issues are a big problem.
Right, of course. So let's just say we have our AC unit, we're at work all day, we come back and now it's not working. We call you up, and then what does it cost now to replace a unit?
That varies. It really depends. It's situational dependent. So when we get a call for a customer at OAC, we'll go out, we'll give you an estimate, go over all your options, and then go from there. But what we run into this market, other states, other markets, is it's not, a lot of times it's not just as simple as changing the equipment out. There's ductwork issues. It's usually undersized, and so you have to go over everything to make sure it's done correctly.
Okay, so you'll come in, assess the square footage of the home.
Right. We'll make sure. Correct.
Okay, so since you're kind of talking about this, let's go a couple different ways with this and expand this part of the conversation. We got a 22-year-old unit, like I said, but let's just say only one part of it failed, like the fan failed, or a capacitor failed, or whatever. There was something else that failed. So can you still go through, though, in today's parts supply availability, go in there and replace certain elements without having to get a whole new system?
You can. There's an aftermarket of universal parts like fan motors. It's not specific. You can, there's not too many parts that doesn't have a universal replacement. So yeah, there's options.
Okay. And then the last thing to tie into that is, I don't know, you might know where I'm going with this, is your refrigerant that you actually use to cool the thing. So let's say I call you up and I go, man, it's not blowing as cold, and you come out and you go, well, you had a little bit of a leak or something, or you're low on Freon, and you say, ooh, you've got R12. So for those that still have R12, can you still fill them? Does it cost you an arm and a leg? What's the latest with that?
So R12, it's R22. Yeah, R12 is even way gone. R22's the
R22. I'm thinking back in the 70s and 80s.
Hey, you aged yourself there. R12.
So if you've got an air conditioner still working from the 70s and 80s,
just leave it. Just don't touch it.
Right.
So R22 has been phased out of production. It's not made anymore. And so we don't even offer it as an alternative. What we do offer is on a system like that, we would give you the option of converting it to a different refrigerant that's compatible with all the components in the system. And it's cheaper than R22.
Okay, so you can actually purge the old refrigerant, and the properties are the same to keep everything lubricated and not have a compatibility issue with any trace elements, or is it completely purged to where it's clean, empty, and then it doesn't matter what you put in there?
Well, your components of the system have to be rated for the refrigerant, and so you can't just put any. It has to be a lower pressure refrigerant, and so it's not you can't add it on top of R22, but you can get rid of any leftover refrigerant and charge with the new.
Okay. Is there any difference in how they cool the older versus the newer? Or is it about the same?
The newer refrigerant that's used at all the air conditioners now, there's not a difference. There's a difference on the tech end, on my end, what I see, but as far as what the customer sees, no, there's not a difference.
Okay, and then kind of last, since we're kind of in this ballpark, is SEER rating. So talk about that and the difference in the numbers, and is it attached to square footage, or is it attached to how cold you want it, how fast you want it? Where do you draw the line on all that?
So SEER rating is the seasonal energy efficiency rating of the unit. That's the government's rating of a side number. How they rate the efficiency of units. Our wonderful government changed SEER rating this year on January 1st, and they call it SEER 2 now. And it's essentially they're testing the units differently and tagging them differently. So used to, the minimum SEER for Oklahoma, or this region, was 14 SEER, was the lowest you could get. Now it's 14.3 SEER 2, and then it goes up from there. So that it's just the efficiency of the unit. You know, it could be a variable speed motor, fan motor, variable speed compressor, bigger coils to transfer the heat, and it just goes up from there. You can go 20 to 30 SEER on the high end. So.
Okay.
And then you mentioned variable speed. I've got a friend that's got a variable speed where it's super quiet. You wouldn't even know it was turned on. And I've got the old school. It goes one speed only. That's blast.
Right.
So
and when it turns on, you don't talk because you can't hear each other.
Yeah. So what's the difference between those two?
Yeah, variable speed is the high end stuff. It can go 0 to 100 and everything in between. And like I installed a variable speed system at my house a couple years ago, and what I've noticed with variable speed systems is they run longer and they use less electricity, but then running longer, your house is more comfortable. So I noticed, like on our old system that was, off and on, we would set it at 72. Well, the new one we can set it at 74 because it runs longer and creates a comfortable environment, more comfortable environment in your house.
Now, that would all be part of your assessment, I guess, when you go into a homeowner's home and find out, do you work from home? Are you away from home? And then you can assess whether or not they need a 2-speed. What did you call it?
A variable.
Variable.
Yeah. Variable speed.
Well, and when we give a quote for equipment replacement, we give options. We'll start at maybe the low end, 14.3, then we'll go maybe a 2-stage, middle of the road, and then a high end would be a variable speed offering.
Okay, and then what's your timeline? Now you've come into my home and parts need to be replaced. So that, I guess, can be done while you're there. And let's just say
go ahead. Sorry about that.
And let's just say it's 2 parts. So then you realize that you can't fix it and you need to replace it. So 2 parts to that question.
So on the first part, our service trucks we keep them stocked so we can handle the problem. If guys are leaving and having to go pick up parts or something like that, it just adds time. So we try to keep stocked everything as much as possible. And so we'll come diagnose if it's something very easy. We'll fix it on the spot. And then if it turns into, hey, we need to do a full system, give them a quote, they approve. It's a pretty quick process. But the main thing we run into right now is equipment availability. So since COVID, it's been an issue.
It's that darn COVID.
Right.
Blames for customer service, blame for parts, blame for everything. So,
Right.
And to go on that a little further, we got caught up after COVID, and then when the government said, "Hey, go to SEER 2," then it caused the same issues again. So the manufacturers had to retool all their lines for the new equipment, and so they ran out of the old equipment. They didn't have the new equipment yet, and it's frustrating.
Okay, so let's say you've done the assessment. The homeowner ended up purchasing a new unit. 2-part question is typically how long will that last? So kind of like what's the guarantee, and then finally what would be the warranty and what would it cover?
So every manufacturer is a little different on warranty. Daikin, our main one that we install, the warranty is 12-year part, and then on a certain product line on their equipment, they offer a 12-year labor warranty also. So for 12 years, the only cost you potentially would have would be maintenance-related costs. And then, I think I got ahead. What was the first part of the question?
Okay, so just basically the what do you expect out of it as far as the
lifespan.
Lifespan.
So typically 10 to 15 years, I think, is fine. What you find though is if it's a 20-year-old unit, the technology is going to be way ahead at that point. In 20 years, these air conditioners are going to operate way differently. So.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
But
as we just found out.
Mine's on a hand crank. You just kind of do this, and it gets going.
Well, and the last 5 years, the technology has just went insane with what they're doing now. So.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
All right.
So
what about?
Do you offer additional warranty? Like there's service warranty where you can come out and maintenance it?
Mm-hmm. We do. Yeah, on all our new installs, we throw in a 2-year labor or a 2-year maintenance plan.
Okay.
Okay.
And then you just phone up the homeowner and say, hey, maintenance is due, or is it up to the homeowner to sort of diarize it
No,
and make contact?
our software is pretty automated. So once they get enrolled in a maintenance plan, the software reminds us to remind them. I mean, it's very
Oh,
easy.
Okay.
that's perfect because
Now,
everybody's so busy and sometimes you just forget.
sure. Now, and I know
Right.
you mentioned there's various units you can get based off of the need of the home, but can you give us like just a generic price range, kind of like from low to high? Just for one unit, obviously not two units. If you had like an upstairs, downstairs, that'd be separate. But let's just assume it's just one floor plan, and you only need is one unit. So what are the rough cost estimates on that?
You could be on a middle of the road, like 3-ton unit. You could be 8 or 9. And then you could, if there's a bunch of duct work, a bunch of modifications, you could be, 15, 16,000.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And then what about like a home warranty claim? The person said, "Hey, my AC broke," and do you guys help to service some of those, or how does that affect you at all? Does it?
Home warranty companies are not good for heating and air companies. It's they low pay, and so it's just
Okay.
they low pay on the heat and air companies, and so the really good ones, we won't deal with them. And yeah, and then what we've ran into is they'll deny claims on the homeowner for no reason. Um,
Oh,
Okay.
okay. That's good to know.
so
Interesting. Okay. All right. So let's see. We're kind of get close to wrapping this up as far as the air conditioner part. Obviously, if it's during the daylight hours, they can call you 9 to 5. But I'm assuming you work after hours, weekends.
correct, and our actually open hours are 7 to 7, Monday through Friday, and then we have
Oh, good.
after hours service after
Okay.
that.
Okay, so at 10 o'clock, all of a sudden we're getting ready for bed. We notice it's not working in our AC unit. We can just call you. Or call the
Correct.
100 number, or...
No, our local
Oh,
number.
okay.
Correct.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so can you tell us what a mini split is?
So a mini split originated. It's kind of a generic term, but overseas for 30, 40 years, they've used them. They're little small split systems that the indoor unit hangs on a wall, outdoor unit is outside. There's refrigerant lines running in between. It's very good for spot cooling, like a single room, a bonus room, a garage,
Oh,
a home gym. Like we did a metal building the other day that the guy made it a home gym, and so we threw a mini split on the wall. It's
nice.
there's different versions of it. There's a ductless version, and then there's a ducted version. But what I'm talking about is more of the ductless version. It just hangs on the wall, and they're variable speed. They're very energy efficient, and so they're very good. Hey, if you want to turn your garage into part of your living space, a mini split's an awesome option for that.
Oh, that's great.
That's actually pretty cool. I didn't even know those existed.
Yeah, I have.
Oh, okay. Cause
Yeah, because
All right.
we have them in Canada.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Okay, so I do want to ask you like a couple of just standard heating questions. I want to make this all about air conditioning, but as far as servicing your units, parts, the company, etc., what would be red flags to watch for doing business with a company? And that can, like for example, a flat rate, whereas it might be a flat rate of a low cost, but maybe their parts are now marked up, 2,000% or something. So kind of go into the details of what to kind of watch for in this business.
The main thing to watch for is someone trying to pressure you into making a decision on the spot. That really is it. Like if you're getting a quote on a system and they're telling you don't get other quotes, like don't be afraid to get a second opinion. Doesn't matter what it is. If they're a good company, they're not. It's not going to matter to them.
Okay.
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, all right, so I didn't have a whole lot on furnace because it always just works. And every time you turn it on, it stinks to high heaven for the first 5 minutes, of the season. And then it's good. And you can hear the burner flame kick on, and then you can hear the motors finally turn. So any information you want to kind of throw at us on the furnace side of things?
Yeah. So the furnaces work, but the two cold snaps we had the previous 2 Februarys, not this last one, but the last two where we went down into negative digits for a period. we had a big issue with high efficient furnaces located in the attic that their drain lines were freezing and there was nothing we could do about it.
Oh,
Oh,
And
wow.
so it's most of the time that's not an issue, but when it gets negative or 0 degrees for a couple days, it's a big issue. And so there were customers that we couldn't do anything with them. If it's going to stay below 0 degrees for a couple days, you can't stop that.
Is there anything to prevent?
yeah. I mean, what can you do?
I mean, there is the drain lines are insulated and they have heat tape that you can put on the lines, but we even saw houses like the heat tape failed or something. So
What about?
yeah, that
I'm gonna just throw because now you get me thinking of ideas. What if it's of a snake in the plumbing world for toilets? Is there such thing as like an electrical snake of a thin wire, a hot wire that you could just stick down that tube inch by inch and it's super hot, so it just melts the ice as it goes? I mean, it'd take you forever, but I guess that could clear an ice.
probably not. And it's PVC material, so anything you could be, if you're sticking something down there like that, it could melt the PVC too.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a
sure.
good point. All right. Well, that stinks. I wonder how they do it up north.
Well, I can tell you.
How do they do it?
Well, first of all, we have basements.
Oh, okay.
So all of our ductwork so you're in the basement, all the ductwork's in the ceiling between your main floor and your basement. So it's all inside your house.
So none of it ever freezes.
Well, sometimes your outside plumbing will freeze, but you can put the foam around your pipes
Okay.
to help prevent that.
All right. Well, we'll just have to relocate everything down in our non-existing basements, John, and we're going to be good.
Well,
No problem.
we took a stand to not do 90% the high efficient units like that. Just because it was a nightmare for us, just going to customers' houses and telling them like, there's not much we can help you with here.
Right. Okay. So, is there anything you need to do maintenance-wise from a homeowner standpoint for a furnace?
No, it's the same thing, just filters and filter. When I go into a customer's home, and that's the first thing I train my guys, and I do, hey, go to the filters immediately because it's a weird deal. Customers think that we'll shame them if they don't change their filters. Like if you ask them, hey, have you changed it recently? They'll say, yeah, and you go look, and it looks like their dog's fur has completely coated it, and you're like, yeah, you had to change that, but I don't judge. It's actually just helps us troubleshoot. That's the easiest thing that can break an air conditioner is a dirty filter.
Right.
Sure, of course.
I see, Eleanor, I see your comment there on Facebook, melting PVC.
Right.
Hey, I'll solve your problem. I'll get rid of
Right.
your ice and I'll melt your PVC
Yeah.
at the same time.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
Shelley Brooks Manning had said, "Good info,"
Yeah.
and this is her go-to company.
Yeah. And so,
So Shelly's was one of them that froze, and we had to temporarily run her drain like through her ceiling into her living room to keep her heat going.
oh, wow.
Oh wow. Okay.
Like
Goodness.
it, yeah.
Oh boy. And Eleanor. Okay, what did Eleanor say?
Eleanor, she's all over it. She gets some
Right.
good feedback on Facebook.
She does. Yeah.
She's in it. She loves content.
Right.
Okay, so let's see. We've pretty much covered everything about air conditioning unit. Okay, all right. I'm going to assume that the ventilation is just the air ducts and the filters that we talked about, for both
Correct.
systems. Is there anything additional in that component of the equation?
No, I mean, and ventilation could be your bathroom exhaust fan, or if you have kitchen exhaust hoods. But yeah, just ductwork mainly, and what like I said, and what we find in our line of work, a lot of times ductwork is undersized. You talk to a homeowner and say, hey, do you have problem areas in your home? And probably 9 times out of 10, someone's going to say, yeah, I have a bedroom that's too hot or too cold year round, and so that's a ductwork issue more than likely.
So does that mean you have to get your ductworks cleaned out? Because I see there's companies that
Yeah, they are.
After that?
I always
So-
so I'm not sure.
So duct cleaning, and that's something we don't offer. It's one of those. It's an area that can be easily scammed because you don't know what they're doing. It's not a lot of the stuff you don't see. You're trusting that they're cleaning
Right.
it, and a lot of the duct material in Oklahoma is flex duct. It's got a trash can or trash bag inner liner. It's plastic, and so you can't really disturb it. The only thing you can do is like compressed air on it, and potentially you could do it that way. But yeah, duct cleaning is. I've seen a lot of companies advertise it and go behind them, and I can see they didn't do anything.
So, have you ever, if someone is complaining that one part of their house isn't as cool or as warm as it should be, I know something that I've seen by showing homes is that sometimes they have a hole in their ductwork, and then they patch it up with, the silver tape.
Mm-hmm.
Is that?
Yeah, no, that if it's metal ductwork, yeah, you can patch it with tape or seal it up. But yeah, a lot of times, like in Oklahoma, flex duct is the common duct material. It's generally ran very poorly. It's not stretched out. It's sagging. It's not. It's just poorly ran, and so you lose airflow if your ductwork's not correct. And it like I said, majority of the time it's not. It's undersized or just not ran correctly.
So then when you come in to do an assessment, are you looking at all the ductwork as well?
On every system that we quote, we look at all the ductwork. We calculate is it correct for the size of the air conditioner, size of the house. And then if we have to upgrade any ductwork, we put dampers in all the lines and test all the airflow to make sure it's getting exactly what it's supposed to, where it's supposed to go.
Oh, perfect. Okay. That's good information.
Okay, so I'm going to ask kind of the twofer question. So typically the air conditioner and the heater obviously are tandem tied together. So like 20 plus year unit, well, they're both 20 plus years old. We know the AC can have a few parts that fail. You can either replace some of those parts or you get the new units. For the heater, nobody really knows it either works or it doesn't. So are there a couple of parts that typically fail that can be replaced without having to buy a whole new unit? And if you do have to buy a whole new unit, kind of what's the ballpark range of that price as well?
So there's only a couple parts on a heater. If you have a gas heater, you have a board, a gas valve, and a blower motor. And some safeties. Like they're very limited on what could fail. And then on electric heat, it's the same thing. There's not a lot that can fail. And on the furnace side, you have a heat exchanger where the gases flow through, and if that gets a crack in it, gets compromised somehow, then potentially you can get carbon monoxide in your house. And so whenever we run across a situation like that, it's like, that's a no-brainer. You need to replace your furnace on a safety issue. And generally, you pair everything together. Let's say you have a 20-year-old system and your furnace, you determine, hey, we want to replace the furnace. Your best bet is to replace everything. You wouldn't want to put a brand new furnace on a 20-year-old air conditioner and then the air conditioner fails and you're out double the money. So that if you're just doing just a heater, you could be $3,000 or $4,000 up to $6,000 or $7,000. Those are cheaper. But yeah, generally you want to do everything together. Your money's best served doing everything together.
Okay, and because you're already there, you're already in the attic anyway, so it's kind of best on the
and the best way to get energy savings is a fully matched system that's energy efficient. So if you throw in a new furnace and you got a 20-year-old air conditioner, you're not seeing any energy savings there.
Oh, gotcha. Well, that's the other thing is, so when the AC starts to fail, usually the biggest complaint is it's not cold enough anymore. What is a tip off that your heater, or is it either it just blows hot or it doesn't? Is it just one of those absolutes?
It's just right. It's just on or it's not.
Oh, okay.
You might get into situations where it's intermittent, but yeah, it's either heating or not.
Okay.
And then, do you offer financing if someone should need it?
We do. We have a 0% financing option, and then it goes up from there. And we have a bunch of different financing partners, so there's a bunch of options there.
Okay. Good. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that's good because that's a chunk of change for anybody that's not budgeting for a new one.
That is. Yeah, no, it is, and it's always an easy conversation. Like, we offer financing, so you're not eating this cost all at once.
Sure, of course, because it's It's expensive to replace your AC and furnace all at once.
It is. Yeah. I mean, it's like buying a car at this point, with prices, how prices are.
Just for fun, in your experience, what's the oldest unit you've seen still running?
So we're going to be replacing it next week. It's on a church in Dell City, and it's from 1972, and it's a big commercial unit, and yeah, it's definitely the oldest I've seen, and it's still running.
Oh, that's amazing.
So you just prompted another question for me. I apologize.
Yeah, what's that?
Where do you service?
So the metro area, Edmond, Guthrie, and then you go down south, and you can go Norman, Noble, go east, go, McLeod is probably far east, and then out west, Yukon, Mustang area.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So then,
Okay,
how
good.
do they get a hold of you?
So you can call our main line. It's 405-301-7297. And during business hours, operator will answer your call, or if they're busy, they will call you back. And even after hours, even if you leave a message, you'll talk to a live home comfort person, not a call center.
Okay. And then the
good.
turnaround time, typically, if it's not like an emergency, right? In other words, I got nothing going, or even maybe if it's an emergency, what's the turnaround time for that, and then the turnaround time for getting maybe an entirely new unit?
So the turnaround for getting someone on site generally is within 24 hours. If that's a service tech, or if that's, hey, you just need a quote for a system, we're pretty quick. Obviously, if it's 100 degrees outside, maybe that stretches out a little bit. If we're super busy, but yeah. And then as far as getting the equipment, I mean that's pretty easy. We, hey, go give an estimate, customer approves. It's generally like we can schedule it when it's convenient for the customer.
Okay.
And then we also offer, if it's a no AC condition, it's summertime, we offer portable units to get the customer by until we can get their air conditioner replaced.
Oh, good.
Oh, that's really nice.
Okay, so you're thinking, I'm just throwing a ballpark number out there. So maybe, you realize your air conditioner's gone out on a Monday. You need to order a new unit. You guys come out. You can have the new unit installed by Friday. I mean, is it a 1 week turnaround usually, roughly, or?
No, it's not a one. It's next day generally.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's fast.
That's way better.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Excellent.
All right. Well, hey, John, I appreciate your time this
thank
morning.
you.
This is very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and
Appreciate it.
enjoy the rest of your Saturday and your weekend.
You guys too.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, that was
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah. I learned a lot.
That was a great interview. I love these interviews.
Oh my gosh.
Because you always
value packed.
You always know just enough to be dangerous. You never know. You never know enough to get the whole picture. So it's good to not be dangerous anymore.
Right.
And thanks for the comments on Facebook. You guys watched it and appreciate that,
Yeah,
Lenore.
thanks.
And